Are you struggling to find the motivation to pursue your dreams? You've always wanted to be a professional artist, but as the deadline for art program submissions approaches, you find yourself suddenly unmotivated and avoiding the canvas altogether. What's behind this elusive drive, and how can you keep it going? Psychologists define motivation as the desire or drive to start and maintain a particular behavior. In other words, it's the energy that pushes you to take action. Understanding where this drive comes from is crucial, especially when it comes to maintaining it. Motivations can be broadly divided into two categories, intrinsic and extrinsic. Intrinsic motivation is when you engage in an activity for its own sake, like playing video games or pursuing a hobby. The experience itself explains the desire to do it, and tasks that feel meaningful, enjoyable, or satisfying are driven by intrinsic motivation. On the other hand, extrinsic motivation refers to pursuing a task as a means to an end. While few people might find going to the dentist enjoyable, you're often driven by the outcome of having clean and healthy teeth. Other examples of extrinsic motivations include completing a task to receive a reward, such as praise, power, or money. However, these rewards can be short-lived. Research has shown that people who focus on external rewards, like getting paid or winning a competition, are less likely to stick to their goals. What predicts perseverance is how much you enjoy pursuing your goals. In other words, you're more likely to stick to an exercise routine if you take classes you enjoy, rather than just trying to build muscle. Years of psychological research have shown that high levels of intrinsic motivation for school, work, or exercise are more likely to keep you engaged in the long run. However, daily actions are rarely driven by either purely intrinsic or extrinsic motivations. Studying for a history exam, for example, can be driven by intrinsic motivation if you're interested in ancient Egyptian culture, but extrinsic motivations like getting a good grade or feeling pressure from family members can also play a role. Having multiple motivations isn't always better. A study on military students found that those driven by both intrinsic motivations, like self-improvement, and extrinsic motivations, like getting a good job, were generally less motivated than students driven by only one of these factors. As a result, these students performed worse and were less likely to graduate. Psychologists call this phenomenon the overjustification effect, where additional external motivations can muddy the waters when you already have intrinsic motivation to do something. But this is only a problem if you already find a task motivating. When you face an activity you find boring or uninteresting, adding external rewards can be helpful. This way, external motivations can provide a sufficient reason. Even if you don't enjoy doing laundry, you might find it less painful if you receive praise from a family member or promise yourself that you'll watch your favorite TV show after folding the clothes. Motivation is complex, and sometimes, no matter how passionate you are about a goal or hobby, finding the drive to do it can be tough. However, there are things you can do to boost your motivation, even when it feels impossible. Focus on building internal drive by making the task more enjoyable in the moment. Asking a friend to join you or simply putting on your favorite playlist can give you the push you need to start and stick to your goals in the long run.